Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic.
Pew Research, nearly half US adults say dating has gotten harder in last 10 years. What are your thoughts on current dating scene? Back in the day, girls would say they wanted a guy over 6 feet and guys would say they wanted a girl who was a solid 10, but then they'd meet, make each other laugh, and suddenly a guy who is 5 feet 9 and a girl who is a 6 with makeup would be good enough for each other. Now all you have are pictures and stats. There's no opportunity to charm someone. No chance to win him over. You can basically filter out the undesirable qualities, never realizing you may have swiped a soulmate out of your life. Obviously it's getting worse as people are more reluctant to leave the house and, therefore, more reliant on online dating. Pretty much this, we've all been boiled down to our most superficial stats. Woman facepalming. Yep, people are window shopping and being told to make sure the person fits a checklist before even meeting them. A combination of people relying too much on apps, or even entirely on them, and entertainment at home alone has become a lot more fun than ever before. Apps also give the impression that someone else who is potentially better is just around the corner. Any little thing where you traditionally decide if it's a deal breaker or not is now automatically a deal breaker because the perfect person is just another swipe away. There's also the fact that anyone capable of making a comparison of what dating was like 10 years ago is pretty much going to be in the older part of the dating pool when things get inherently harder. You've got 30-year-olds comparing to when they were 20, 35-year-olds comparing to 25, 40-year-olds comparing to when they were 30. The reality is that as you get older, people rapidly start pairing up and choices thin out, and the pool really only gets supplemented by divorcees who have their own complex baggage and personality issues. Given that the ease of dating probably peaks early to mid-20s, I wouldn't be surprised if this survey would have the same result if conducted 20 years ago. To add on to that, I'd say completely unrealistic expectations for anybody coming onto the dating scene that's perpetuated by films, books, and porn is doing a lot of damage. That and it's expensive as fuck for most people to just exist right now, let alone go out to dinner and a movie. That's to say nothing of just how poorly a lot of people communicate now. Don't forget social media. IMO, that's the biggest offender. People rely on apps because nightlife is dead. It's too expensive and no one wants to talk. A shot of vodka costs $10. A pint of beer is $8. The guy who just got bottle service for $1,200 is getting all the attention. Everyone has their heads buried in their phones. Asking someone out at work or the gym is a terrible idea, only leaving a few spaces where it's appropriate. After all this, if you manage to get dates, you actually need to like each other. I feel like I'm between a hammer and an anvil here. Maybe I could afford dating, but then my finances would suffer a lot and would derail my plans of one time owning a house. Plus trying to advance in my career kinda leaves me drained at the end of the day. There's so much to do and so much to learn, while also dealing with everyday shit. Maybe I'm making a mistake by focusing too much on work and not enough on my personal life, but I've been poor and in a relationship and it didn't end well, and she wasn't even materialistic or high maintenance, I just wasn't able to provide the bare minimum. So I guess we'll see how this thing works out. Cold sweat smile. Being married feels like making the last chopper out of Vietnam. Being married to someone who isn't shitty feels like you got on one of the last choppers with enough fuel to get home. That's the one. I'm 33 and in the middle of separation from my partner of 12 years. I'm just gonna assume this was my chance at a relationship and I'll just be alone now. That way I'm not so disappointed. I found myself unexpectedly single in 2021 after a 10-year marriage, and yeah, every dating app sucks now. Lots of features don't even exist anymore, like letting you search for people instead of just relying on what the algorithm decides to show you. OkCupid used to show you a person's message response rate so you could save your time if they never responded to anyone. And I feel like there are way more bots and scammers. But meanwhile, people aren't drinking as much, so bars aren't a great option, and as a 40-year-old with a full-time job, friends, family to spend time with, and a house and pets to take care of, I don't have the free time to do something like attending random meetup groups or volunteering hoping to maybe meet someone. And I feel like there are way more bots and scammers. The one angle I don't get at all is the significant amount of women, maybe men do this too but I don't look at male profiles so I don't know, who clearly just use dating apps to amass Instagram followers. How does that actually work? Who would follow a woman they don't end up dating on Instagram because they pitched it on a profile? What is the point from the perspective of either party? Much like asking why people pay for when there's plenty of free porn out there, the potential for personalization and parasocial relationships are wild. Who would follow a woman they don't end up dating on Instagram? Guys who want to jerk off to Instagram pictures. That's the entire market. If a girl is hot enough, she can amass enough gooners that the algorithm starts to feed her account even more gooners, and it snowballs into a steady income stream from bikini shots and beach trips. 80 to 90% of my friends who graduated college with a partner married that person. 10 years later, virtually none of the people who did not graduate college in a relationship are married, and exactly 0 people in my network at 33 have a child if they did not start a relationship with their partner before 24. That's a pretty wild, disturbing thing. I see this too. In retrospect, perhaps it made sense to find a partner in college. Personally, I was not ready, but it sure would have been a lot easier, cause after college dating opportunities were rare. I down-selected myself in high school and college on this point. In high school I said, no point in dating, we'll go to different colleges and things'll fall apart. In college I said, no point in dating, I might get a job on the other side of the country from them. Then when I had a job and thought my life was consistent now, lol, it wasn't, I said, I'm too busy and tired to date now. Quote. There is no dating scene anymore. It's just a bunch of people on cell phones all desperately trying to fuck the hottest person possible. Everyone else just stays at home or hangs with friends, family because it's cheaper and more entertaining to be at home or someone else's home than it is to go spend $20 on like 3 beers in a bar. All desperately trying to fuck the hottest person possible. For some fucking reason people's standards are insanely high. People that are solid 5s are genuinely going for or won't accept anything below an 8.5 to 9. LMAO man, this shit is fascinating to read about from the outside. $20 for 3 beers is a damn good deal these days, loudly crying. Once I left college it was like the whole dating scene was gone. Everyone was in long-term relationships and there wasn't anywhere I could find anything. Apps were good because everyone is there to date. There's no singles night or speed dating or just places where young people congregate and meet anymore. The shared spaces just don't exist. I did meet a lot of friends pre-COVID using Meetup, but now even that costs a stupid amount of money to run a group and is pretty much dead. You have to really put in the effort to even find spaces and meet people. It's exhausting. I went to a speed dating thingy a couple of months ago and it feels like it works exactly like the apps. Everyone in the room gave their likes to the top 2 to 3 people and the rest get nothing. As an average-looking dude, dating apps are not easy. If you're a good-looking guy, like some of my friends, absolutely another game. Apps really fuck with self-esteem, at least mine. Yep, my friends have them and always someone new they're talking to, then they ask me about my matches. Oh, you mean my one match, from like 4 months ago, who never responded lol. FML. I have the same issue, I am not a handsome guy. Try the impossible mode and do dating apps as someone who doesn't drink. I swear to God like 90% of people's profiles boils down to, I like drinking a lot of alcohol. Most people's pictures are them holding or drinking alcohol, and the description is about how they like drinking alcohol. It's like alcohol is most of these people's only personality trait. Like I don't care if other people drink, but if that's all you present on your profile then it's definitely a turn off for me. Don't see alcohol that often, but smoking weed definitely seems to be a personality trait. Online dating has made it possible to interact with tons of different people, which creates a paradox of choice, many more options, measured against the same old preferences. And nobody is willing to compromise or put in effort to get to know a person when there are 250 other faces on your phone to swipe at. And this is on top of all the other things that have made socializing suck over the last 20 or so years. Everything is expensive, and a lot of people have started to behave in real life the way people do on Reddit and Facebook and Twitter. There was a similar thread about this topic a while back and a comment there put this concept succinctly: IMO, nobody wants to take the time to solve each other's little puzzles anymore, they just want the pristine final image from the get-go. Yeah, most comments on this topic are men talking about women being too picky. But I've even noticed that me, as a guy, when on dating apps, I tend to get pickier too, and definitely more about looks. I mean usually someone's demeanor, mannerisms, confidence etc. are big aspects of someone and how attractive they appear to any individual. But it's hard to get a feel for those, under the surface, qualities from a dating app profile. Those used to be qualities that would spark a relationship, but now people are mostly relying on appearance and aesthetics to decide if someone is worth going on a first date with, and those under the surface qualities are more important for keeping a relationship. Now people are gambling with attractive looking people and hoping that they have attractive personalities too, when before you would be able to gauge that before even going on a date, since you'd most likely meet someone first before a date 15 years ago. Essentially, dating apps are great for hookups and short flings but detrimental to finding a long-term partner. A major factor is that if you're not picky, the algorithm punishes you for it. There are plenty of profiles where nothing really stands out as special to me, but they seem fine and I'd be open to meeting in person to learn more about them. Except every time you swipe, the app will reduce your visibility to all other profiles. Since there's a 95% chance she won't swipe back, it doesn't feel worth it to take a shot on a maybe. I only swipe if I'm already confident she's relationship material, and people who actually have detailed, interesting profiles are a rarity on dating apps. I am absolutely sure that there are people out there who didn't write an interesting profile but are a lot more fun in person. If you're not extremely careful with your swiping, the algorithm buries you. It seems counterintuitive, but being open to a wider range of partners greatly reduces your options. Feel this. The rate of functional illiteracy is frankly staggering. Gone are the days where you'll hit it off with someone in the pub smoking area, you'll make out all night, despite the smoky mouth. Sacrifices must be made, you see, enthusiastically exchange numbers, only to be utterly horrified when they text you in the morning asking, "So right, I had a GR8 time at the pub, when we link next?" Lol. Edit, mine is UK specific, of course. My equivalent was getting drunk and doing basically the same but in a nightclub, only to find the next day that they communicate mainly via emojis. Years of investment into awful, whole language, literacy instruction in schools. We graduated an entire generation of kids that can't read. I'm very lucky to have been through the system with phonics myself and had it returned just in time for my kids. FYI for anyone interested, the podcast, Sold a Story, from American Public Media goes into this, and some other issues around teaching kids to read.